Candidates for the town council. Now, one thing I'm going to ask you to do, which I neglected to do, was to hold your applause until the end. And so, this way we'll be able to get in more questions. What we're going to do is we're going to start with the Republicans this time, and we will flip it for the closings, all right? And so, a 2-minute opening statement by Mr. Tim Hubbard.
Thank you, Mr. Bell. Good evening. My name is Tim Hubbard, and I'm running for Riverhead Town Councilman on the Republican, Conservative, Independent, and Reform lines. I'm a lifelong resident of Riverhead with deep roots in the community. I am married with 5 children, all of whom have attended the Riverhead School District. I recently retired from the Riverhead Town Police Department after 32 years of public service. I also developed the local police athletic league and served as its director for over 20 years. I was a member of the Riverhead School Board, Eastern Suffolk BOCES Advisory Board, Riverhead Recreation Advisory Board, Riverhead PBA Board of Directors, and an EMT with the Riverhead Town Volunteer Ambulance Corps. I dedicated my life to public service, and I am looking forward to my future challenge as your next Riverhead Town Councilman. Riverhead is presently at a series of crossroads. Many good things are happening with the development of the downtown corridor. Empty storefronts on Main Street are filling, and new housing for downtown residents will only bolster that trend. EPCAL will soon have a subdivision map completed, and properties will be ready to be marketed for a much-needed tax base increase. I intend to link the Town Code Enforcement Department with the Police Department. This will provide a more efficient enforcement on illegal landlords and illegal businesses. In turn, this will develop more revenue for the town while cleaning up unsightly problems that detract from our community's quality of life. These are the main topics that all of the candidates are addressing. Let us not forget that there are many pocket problems within each hamlet of the town. Development along the Route 25A corridor in Wading River, the noise pollution of air cannons going off early in the morning on farms in Aquaborg and Jamesport, the building of a new church on Doctor's Path near Booker Drive, possibly disturbing the water level on nearby properties. These are only a selection of the many issues that I will work diligently to rectify as your next councilman.
Now we'll have Jim Wooten.
Hi. Oops. Just trying. I'm really a good point. Hi, I'm James Wooten, and I've had the privilege and the honor of being your elected town board as your councilman for the last 2 terms. I'm a lifelong resident of Riverhead. I'm 56 years old. I am married to my beautiful wife, Rebecca Silverman, and we were blessed to have a little baby girl 11 years ago named Olivia. I graduated Riverhead High School in 1978, and after working retail and newspaper printing, joined the Riverhead Town Police Department. In 1982, as a seasonal foot patrolman on our Main Street, and began my full-time career in 1986. As a police officer, I served as a patrolman undercover with the East End Drug Task Force, Street Crime Unit in Riverhead, and I became credited as a New York State Crime Prevention Officer, where I was able to mobilize neighborhoods and civic groups in the art of target hardening and safety prevention. I ran for local office as a councilman in 2007 because after retiring in 2005 from the police force, I felt the need and the desire to continue my work in the public service. I'm ultimately aware of our communities from Jamesport to Wading River and the unique and diverse makeup of our town. I ran because I saw a rundown, abandoned Main Street void of any life after dark, an EPCAL property without any real sensible plan before it, and I wanted to be part of a real solution in zoning issues that the master plan implementation created. I have seen and been a part of a great strides forward. I see a town reviving, a town of great interest to the private home ownership and public developers and investors. And I would love to be a part to continue that as the town continues to grow. Thank you.
Thank you. Neil Crockett, Democrat.
Thank you all for coming tonight, and a big thanks to the Calverton and Wading River Civic Associations. You both do such a great job of keeping your communities informed, and tonight's going to be a great opportunity to let all of you people know the choices that you'll have on November 3rd. A little bit about myself. I'm 55 years old. I live in the hamlet of Northville with my wife of 21 years. I've been involved with writing, producing, and editing television shows and promotions for over 3 decades, and I've owned my own business since 1992. I'm currently the president of Northville Beach Civic Association. Some of you might know me from our successful fight against the expansion of the United Riverhead Terminal. That battle became the catalyst for my candidacy for a couple of reasons. First, it solidified my commitment to doing everything I can to preserve and protect our town's unique quality of life. And second, it exposed me to how our current town board operated. Besides all the well-documented arguments between the 5 members of the same political party, I was shocked to see a general lack of energy, a lack of curiosity, a lack of research, a lack of thinking about the future. The town is clearly living beyond its means, but what has this 5-member board done about it? They have not reined in the IDA tax giveaways of your tax dollars. They have not brought in enough income to take the burden off of us. Now we're about to get a 5% tax hike. As Laura and I have heard on the campaign trail, this hike will force a lot of people to move, especially those who are on a fixed income. EPCAL was supposed to be priority number 1 for this board, but they still don't have a subdivision. They still don't have an application before the DEC. And meanwhile, it's been costing you, the taxpayers, an average of about $400,000 a year. And what about downtown? Where's the vision? Where's the plan? Our neighbors across the river, in less than 2 years, brought in an urban developer who worked with the Southampton board, and most importantly, worked with the town. And now Riverside has a workable plan for a vibrant downtown. While this board was doing nothing, Riverside has run laps around us. This town needs a fresh start. It needs a bolt of fresh energy and new ideas. That is what I will bring to Riverhead if you elect me November 3rd. Thank you.
Laura?
Good evening, and thank you for inviting me here tonight. I'm here because I want to be your next councilwoman. I'm running on the Democratic, the Independents, the Working Families, and the Women's Equality line. I wanted to share a little bit about myself with you. I guess since everybody's sharing their age, I'll share my age also. I'm 52, and I have an associate's degree from Beth Israel School of Nursing, and I went on to get my 4-year degree from Pace University in a Bachelor of Science. I've worked as a nurse for almost 20 years, and currently I'm a project coordinator for the Norfolk Alliance, a group dedicated to reducing youth substance abuse. It's a mouthful. I'm serving my 3rd term on the Mattatuck School Board, and I'm currently serving as president, where I oversee a budget of approximately $40 million. I'm married to my husband, Bob, and we have 2 wonderful children, Molly and Ethan. I believe that I'm a good candidate for this position because I'm a strong leader, I'm a good listener, I take the role of decision-making very seriously. I will show up for work ready and prepared. I will be on time. I will do my homework on issues before voting on them, and I will be accessible to the public. For too long, this town has floundered on important issues. We're currently facing a 5% tax hike because this board has failed to address our financial debt over these past 8 years. It has been 20 years and we still don't have a subdivision map for EPCAL. We have a downtown, while showing some improvement, continues to struggle to attract people. This board has done nothing to address the safety, zoning, or parking issues downtown. I'm running because I believe we do need a fresh start, a board with a vision. The vision to adopt a plan for downtown. We need to review the master plan so that the Riverhead we love, we do not lose it to suburban sprawl. We also need to generate revenue here to help with the town's finances. This will help us enable This will enable us to attract new businesses here if we can make improvements at EPCAL, if we're able to get a subdivision there. My running mate Neil and I have a plan and a vision. Thank you.
All right, in my best retired teacher voice, do you agree that it's time to update the 2003 Riverhead Comprehensive Plan? If so, which issues need the greatest attention? Laura?
I believe it is way past time to update the master plan. The master plan has been there for about 12 years, I believe it's been in place, and part of the plan was to update it within 10 years. I think some of the main issues there that I find concern with is downtown Riverhead Down there, we are zoned for 5-story apartment buildings and that do not contain or are required to have any parking. Anybody that has been downtown lately realizes that this is a grave oversight to be able to put close to 500, maybe even 600 apartments down there and not require any parking. I also think, as I said, Route 58 needs to be readjusted. We have overdevelopment there. All development is not created equal, and we've allowed stores within shopping centers now. And I really think that that needs to be revisited so that we don't continue to just add more stores, add to the traffic, and add to the issues that we have on Route 58. Thank you.
Neil?
Basically what Laura said. You know, when we talk about revisiting the master plan, it's not like we want to go ahead and rewrite the entire plan. I believe it was Councilwoman Jody Giglio who said it's going to cost $2 million. We need to look at the plan and see where the problems are. Obviously, as Laura mentioned, there are now stores being built within parking lots. There's 2 new stores going into where the Applebee's are. And if you know that area, if you know where that is on Route 58, that's already unbelievably congested, and there's not enough parking for Applebee's. How is there going to be enough parking for a Verizon store and an eyeglasses store? This is just one of those things where you need to look and say, where are the problems? And mostly they are zoning issues. And you know, one thing that, when I fought the terminal, the idea was, let's look at the master plan and go, we're supposed to stop non-conforming uses. And I don't think that this board has been doing their job to stop non-conforming uses. I think we need to make that a lot clearer in the master plan and make sure the idea was to, let's slowly but surely get rid of them. There's a reason why people, you know, areas are zoned in a certain way. We need to have things where they need to be. And again, it's been well over 10 years. We need to look at it.
The master plan does not need to be redone. It does need to be revisited. It has been 12 years, and there are certain areas of the master plan that need to be looked at. Times have changed, obviously. We need to go through it item by item and decide what changes need to be made to go with the current times. Mr. Krupnik mentioned overdevelopment on Route 58. Of the parcels that are up there, they're paying approximately $7 million in taxes every year. If that was overdeveloped, where are we going to come up with the $7 million to help this town out? $4 million of that goes towards the school district tax. Where are we going to come up with the $4 million to make up that difference? It was not overdeveloped. We're getting good tax money from that. And in terms of the IDA that Mr. Krupnik touched on, the IDA is a necessity for this town. It's a necessity to bring business into this town, and with the current financial situation, with businesses trying to build, banks are not giving out money like they used to. Since 2008, they used to get 80% financing. They're no longer getting that. They're getting 50% financing to build projects. And a lot of this money, the banks are being very careful where they give it out to, and they're requesting that IDA involvement takes place. I'll tell you that there's approximately 5,000 parcels in the town of Riverhead that receive some sort of a tax benefit, whether it be the STAR program or a veterans benefit. Only 17 properties in the town of Riverhead have IDA assistance. People are very misunderstood about the IDA. The IDA is here to help, and it helps bring business into this town. Thank you.
Jim?
Thank you very much. The master plan I'm very intimately with. I've been with it for about 8 years. Does it need to be revisited? Maybe on a case by case. Yes, it needs to be done eventually, but I'll tell you what, that master plan has created the type of town that we want. We have the receiving areas and the sending areas, the TDR program, all. You look north of where you live. Look north of Middle Road and see all that's happening there with the farm fields and the reserve space. That's all because that's all because of the master plan. As far as the IDA go, I'm the only councilman that ever went to the IDA and fought not to give out tax exemptions to Atlantis when they were expanding into the Hyatt. I didn't want a 20-year exemption on the aquarium, and I was overvoted by them. But the last, you go and you make your pitch and you try to get them to see it your way, but they're an independent board. They're an independent board, and as far as just as a regular person going and trying to talk sense to them, that's all I can do. I can't put undue influence on them. It just wouldn't be fair. Nor would it be proper. As far as pre-existing non-conforming uses, you build a house and you have a beautiful home somewhere, all of a sudden they change your zoning to commercial zoning, and now you're a pre-existing non-conforming use. That's what you are. Until you move out, that house is vacant for a year. At that point, then it's not conforming, and you can't have a residence there anymore. So there's rules that go with that, and that's just property right that people have, and they can do that. This town has done a lot when it comes to restructuring. I heard some comments that I'll probably save for my closing about wasting money and the town not doing anything. We restructured all of our debt to a better rate. Every debt in this town. Is that 1 minute or 2 minute or time? What was that?
30 seconds.
Oh, 30 seconds. There's just so much. The master plan calls for 500 apartments on Main Street. Site plan, we do require them to park their own. We just don't have the property for 100% build out as far as parking goes. But the BOA, and the synergy between Riverside and Riverhead is because of Riverhead's revitalization. Riverside wanted to jump on that bandwagon. I don't blame them. They even hired the same engineer that we did for the BOA in order to be that synergy between Riverside and Riverhead. So there is a comprehensive plan that was done through cooperation through both towns. Thank you.
Jim?
Okay.
A new code regulating farm stands was unanimously adopted, allowing up to 40% regionally grown products and reducing minimum lot size from 7 acres to 2 acres. Was this a good or a bad change?
I voted in favor of it, so I'm certainly not going to say it's a bad change. I think it's a good change. What this did was it clarified, the farm code's been worked on for many, many years. We've had Farm Select, we've had the Farm Bureau, we've had the Agricultural Advisory Committee, all working on this code for many, many years to try to come up with a sensible way with this farm stand legislation. You're going to hear people out there say, oh, you got 97 new farm stands. Well, the fact is that you could have had 97 farm stands all these years, and it never happened. So this is not going to promote any of that. In fact, what this did was this took the 2-acre zoning in the RB80, which you could have a farm stand, and you can't now because you need greater than 2 acres. So that actually negated a lot of the use for farm stands. Now this, as far as the 40% that's there, they call it regionally. And a lot of that has to do with you have to sell at least 60% of what you grow on your property. It has to be grown on your property. So you're not going to have a farm stand in the middle of a residential. It's just not going to happen. The whole yard's not going to be a flower garden. I mean, you're going to sell flowers. It's just not going to happen that way. But the 40% was there in order for if there's a crop failure. You never know. I mean, if anybody drove around this weekend, this country fair weekend, and drove down Sound Avenue or 25 or Hubbard Avenue in Riverhead on Saturday. My God, they were all coming out here to pick up pumpkins. And that's what they do. It's a great place to visit. So they came out to visit. So the farmers need to have the ability to bring in merchandise if they need to in order to sell it. Because there is a market out here. And it really is their livelihood. And I grew up with a lot of farmers, and it's a hard business. And there's a few farmers here that know that. I mean, it's a lot of work to do that. So I think it's a good code. I think it's been a long time coming. And I think it does more to lessen the effects of sporadic farm stands going all over the place and have to regulate proper growth of that. So,
Jim?
I'd agree with Jim. I think it is a good program. It may need to be tweaked down the road a little bit. Like anything that goes into legislation and comes out, sometimes you find out there are some flaws to it. But on the surface, it appears to me, and I was at the town board work sessions, and the majority of the farmers there seem to be in favor of it. The Farm Bureau was in favor of it. Currently they can sell products from anywhere in the world at a farm stand. And when you come out here to buy something local or regional, which they changed the definition to, you could be buying a product from anywhere in the world. They could be shipping in lettuce from California or from Mexico and be selling that. And people are buying it under the assumption that they're buying local. And it's not right. This curbs the area to where they can bring product in. And it helps them, like Jim said, when there's a crop failure, and a perfect example is the pumpkins. The farmers out here can't grow enough pumpkins to meet the demand. Supply and demand is big. And if, like you said, if you saw the traffic out here this weekend, you saw the number of people that were coming out to buy their pumpkins. They don't really know that they might have been grown in Pennsylvania, but they're coming out here to support the economy and support the farmers. So yes, I am in favor of it.
Being critical of flawed legislation doesn't mean we're against farm stand legislation. And also, I'd like to point out, it does not mean we're against farmers. And nothing could be further from the truth. We're 100% behind our farmers. And that is why we spoke out against these farm stand regulations. Even Rob Carpenter from the Farm Bureau said, well, it's a good start, but it can all be fixed next year. I'm glad that Rob is confident that Laura and I will be able to fix it next year when we're in office. You should not pass legislation that you know is flawed. Jim talking about saying that there won't be 97 new farm stands. No, there will be the potential for 97 new farm stands. That's the way this legislation is written. When are we reaching the saturation point? At a certain point, as we talked about the traffic this past weekend, at a certain point it becomes unmanageable. It also does a disservice to the legislation does a disservice to the whole idea of what is supposed to be locally grown, what a farm stand is. Why do we go to farm stands? We go for the local produce. We go to supermarkets for other things. Farm stand is, we count on the integrity of the farm stand, and that's what the tourists do as well. I think that this legislation cheapens the work that our farmers have done for so long to try to create a really unbelievably viable agricultural business here on Riverhead, and we should be proud of that. As far as the pumpkin patches go, you write legislation to make an exemption for people that have pumpkin patches. If there's a blight, you can grandfather them in, or you make an exemption. We understand that that's how their business works, and it would be problematic. For a lot of these other farms, it doesn't matter because they have a diversity of crops. So, again, we're not against the legislation, we're against bad legislation.
Laura?
Well, I agree with everything that Neil said, and I'd like to also make a few more points. It's been pointed out quite a few times that, you know, in RB 80, which is a smaller zoning area, that you can have a farm on a 2-acre. Well, this legislation was crafted for the agricultural protective zone. And the reason for the agricultural protective zone, and the reason we have different zoning areas in town, is so that each zoning area is unique. And in the agricultural protective zone, one of the things they were trying to do was to keep more open space, and this legislation just slashed that and said that you could have a farm stand on 2 acres rather than 7 acres in the agricultural protective zone. So that's one thing. The other thing is that you know, the 40%, the 60%, 40%, the legislation that was in place was that you could have 60% on farm and 40% of other items sold on the farm. So that was your total of 100%. This legislation erases that. What it does is it allows you to have 60% local, 40% you can truck in whatever you want from Maine or Connecticut or anything else and put it on your shelves. But then it leaves a big hole in that, and it says that you can put any other merchandise that you choose to that's related to what you're doing without quantifying it into the farm stand. So I think that that's a big issue that wasn't addressed. So, and as far as the number of farm stands that it can create, is it going to be 50? Is it going to be 100? We don't know. And that will be up to, we don't know who. Could it be the ag committee that's going to decide on this? Is it the planning board? It's the zoning board? It's not clearly defined in the legislation. Or anybody who puts up a farm stand that may not be in compliance with the intention of it, there will be no penalties for that. One other thing I would like to point out is that I think the board missed a very big opportunity here because we have a lot of agritourism here as well as farm stand. And I think this was an opportunity for the board to address that and to make legislation that would accommodate both. Thank you.
Do you favor or oppose a moratorium on the proposed medical marijuana dispensary in Riverhead? Laura?
I do not. I do not propose a moratorium on it. I was not happy with the place they chose at Blockbuster on Route 58. I felt that it was not conducive, and you know, you'll hear me say it again and again, you know, the overdevelopment and congestion. I think that the amount of business that the store would have been doing was inappropriate for that location. So I do not oppose a moratorium. I think that it's been approved by the state and we are not going to stop the clock on that. But I think that we need to put it in a place in town that is not smack in the middle of town with not enough parking.
Yep.
I am definitely opposed to the moratorium. I am in favor of medical marijuana. It's a drug that is helping a lot of people, including my brother who suffers from MS. Recently there was a town hall hearing and we saw people, everyone from an autistic child to cancer sufferers, and I think that the further we delay being able to get this medicine to the people who need it, I think it's criminal of us. Why do we need a year to answer these questions? I met personally with members of Columbia Care who are coming in here. They're very reasonable men. They know what they're doing, and they'll answer any question you have. So if you have concerns, and the board said they had a lot of questions, Columbia Care answered all of my questions. I assume during the work session they answered all the board's questions. I don't understand what the need for a delay is. I think that they're afraid to vote on it before the election. I think we need, that's mature, Jen. So I think we need to move forward on this, and we need to get this medicine to people who need it. There are people from all over who are desperate for it.
Ed?
I do not favor a moratorium on, a year-long moratorium on the need to just decide if we need a medical marijuana facility in town. We know we need one. We know that we have people that are in desperate need for medical marijuana to help them with their symptoms and with their illnesses. Young children suffering from seizures, elderly people, people with MS. So many people benefit from the use of medical marijuana that I have no objection to it coming to the town. I do agree with what Laura said about the location. I was a little concerned at first about the Blockbuster location, but I also know that there's a possibility of another location that may have been worked out, and I think people will be much happier with that. I am definitely not in favor of a moratorium.
Jim?
No, I was never in favor of a moratorium, but as a councilman, when you are a councilman and you are representing the community and you get inundated with emails and letters and questions from not only CAP but other people that are involved in the community that have real concerns about that, you have to call for a public hearing on that. And you have to listen to the people. I mean, I know I have my ideas, I know what I felt in my heart, but that's not what I'm elected to do. To act on my own gut. I have to listen to what the people want because I have to represent you. So I'm not in favor of a moratorium. I did have the same concerns as everybody else about the location. Of course, it's on 58. We don't want any traffic on 58. But it was a bad location because of the school. There is limited parking there. Although from listening to Columbia Care, I've had several meetings with, they don't suspect that it's going to be any more busier than 7 or 10 people a day. But in any event, there is alternative location looking at right now, which is along with the doctor's office in a secluded area of town, not secluded, but a protected area of town. So that is moving forward. I'm in favor of medical marijuana for all the reasons that have been stated, because it is it's less addicting than some of the hard narcotics that people have to use to deal with their suffering and their pain. And when you get to the end stages, you need to have comfort. It's really about comfort. So. No, I'm not in favor of a moratorium. I don't think you're going to see that come up for a vote. That was just a public hearing to gather information, and that's what we do. Thank you.
Just hold the mic.
I can hold the mic again.
No?
Sure.
What is your position on Riverhead adopting a ban on plastic shopping bags?
Well, I'll tell you, I brought that up a few years ago with Councilman Bartnick's behest. There wasn't really board support for it. I thought it would be a good idea to ban them because I run the townwide cleanup every year, and when I'm walking down Oliver Street and areas around EJ's and whatnot, that's what I seem to be picking up out of the trees and out of the bushes. And I said, boy, this is really not a good idea to have these plastic bags. It takes a lot of energy to make them, and they really don't disintegrate. So it really is a hazard. So personally, I think it's bad. I'd love to see a ban on plastic bags, but practically, I don't think it's going to happen in Riverhead. I think there's not legislation, but there's a big conglomerate out there that would fight us on that. I know they're trying to impose it in Southampton. We do have a Going Green program that we promote. We work with King Cullen, which now here is going out of business, but other stores in town that give out the bags, the big canvas bags. They can encourage people to do that. So there's a lot of educational programming that we do through the Going Green, through the schools, to get people to use alternative methods other than the plastic bags. So me personally, I'd like to see people not use them, but I don't know whether we could legislate that, just make it illegal to have it.
I do not favor a ban on plastic bags, and I'll tell you why. Unless there's another option for somebody to use for a shopping bag, it's highly unsanitary to use a bag over and over again when you're purchasing raw meat and fish and seafood, put them in your bags, taking them home, and then you're expected to use those bags again when you go back to the grocery store. I'm at the grocery store several times a week, and I understand you could throw them in the wash machine and you could wash them, but in a busy world, in a realistic world, that's not going to happen. Plus, when I think about the number of people that may be put out of work in the industry that makes plastic bags, I think there's got to be a better option, so I'm not in favor of banning them at this time.
I think it's microphone. It's real. Are we on? Yes. I think this is a great opportunity for Riverhead to take a leadership role. Southold has said they won't do it unless we do it. So let's do it. Other communities have banned plastic bags and the sky didn't fall. Plenty of people can adjust to using reusable bags. It can actually be a boon for businesses because they can sell those bags. As far as reusing them, it's very easy to wash them. It's not that big of a deal. I assume that you do your laundry every week. You put the bag in there. I think that the over concern of the safety of people from putting meat and chicken in their bags is going a little too far. So I think that this is an opportunity. I think that, as Jim said, that when you go and do street cleanups, you see those bags everywhere. They don't go away. You can put them in landfills. They don't go away. This is all we get, folks. This is the only land we got.
Laura?
I would be in favor of banning plastic bags. I think it's something that it may be a little strange to get used to at first, but I think it's something that you get used to very, very quickly. I mean, just several years ago, every time we went into the supermarket, we were bringing, we were coming out with all the plastic bags, and now when you go in there, 9 times out of 10, I see everybody walking in with their bags already. And so it's just a matter of getting used to something and becoming comfortable with it. So I think it's a great thing to do, so I would have no problem doing it.
Do you favor greater control over wineries, making sure local residents aren't overrun by rock concerts, dance club venues, and sheer traffic volume? Why or why not?
Well, I think this goes back to, once again, and you're going to hear me say it over and over and over again, it's the master plan. We've grown significantly in the past 10 years, in the past 12 years, and that's why it requires visiting the master plan, to make sure that what is going on in town and the way business is being conducted in town is conducive to maintaining our quality of life here. We all have to live here together, we all have to get along. People need to be able to make a living, the wineries need to be able to make money, but we need to be able to do it in cooperation with the rest of the community. So that's why you need to revisit the master plan. You have the community come, you get community input, and then you see what things need to be revised so that we can continue to maintain the quality of life that we have here for all concerned.
There definitely seems to be a trend in sort of creating more of a party atmosphere at some places, and that should definitely be looked into. We had a horrible tragedy, a limo tragedy, and I think that wineries might have some responsibility for that. You're serving alcohol to young people, and in this case, they were doing the right thing, and it's really sad that they were trying to do the right thing, and still there was a problem. Right down the street, we have the proposal of Grapes and Greens that they want to turn into Party Central, right on Sound Avenue. I think as we've addressed the traffic issues on Sound, it's problematic. They don't have the parking for it, and I think that that's something that it should not go forward. It's not what that place was built for, and I think, again, we're starting to reach the saturation point of places where people can come from out of town and whoop it up at the expense of all of us.
Less government is always better. For wineries that have special events, such as the question mentioned with loud music and bands and special events, they all have to go before, or put in a Chapter 90 before the town board to get approval to do it. And then guidelines are given at that point in time for each event that goes before it. So less government is better. The less we're involved with things, the better things run. So I'm definitely not in favor of it.
Jim?
Well, you're right, and I've seen agritourism grow and grow and grow over the last 20 years. When we started getting rid of the potatoes and growing grapes, it came with a lot of forethought, and a lot of legislation has changed. The wineries are a great place to go. I don't personally drink wine, but my wife does, which is good for me too. And we go to these events, Martha Clara or whatever, and you know, it's nice to sit there and listen to a guitar player and have a wine on my supper. It's a nice venue. It really showcases what the North Fork is all about. And I'll take the North Fork over the South Fork any day, just to let you know that. I agree with Tim, less government's there, but any big event like the Fold Festival they had at Martha Clara, I mean, those all have to go through a whole hoop of approvals with the town board with conditions. Yes, the Wading Hollow Club out here on Sound Avenue, we had code enforcement there because I got let out of control for a while with the loud bands and people that live there. So if you're on residences, you have to have courtesy. So there are time constraints. So yes, we have to look at it on case by case, but as far as legislating something, one size don't fit all when it comes to these things, it really doesn't. Each winery has a different group of people that go to it. So some are known to have the rock and some are known to have just a folk guitar. So I mean, it's really, you can't, one size don't fit all with any of this legislation. You have to have general legislation and enforcement for those that really violate the peace and violate the neighborhoods. But this town is going out of their way to promote agritourism. It's exactly what we wanted out here. The master plan called for it. And it's really, it's what makes us great out here on the North Fork. I can't see how we could do any more than, except maybe mess it up if we try to over-legislate, that's all.
And now we're going to go for closing statements. All right, we'll start with the Democrats this time. And Laura, would you like to go first? Okay.
I'm just seated this time because it'll be a little easier for me to read. I didn't bring my glasses. So thank you all for having me here tonight. As a community, we want to feel confident in our elected officials, but time and time again, I do not feel this way about this board. They should be the watchdogs for this town. They should be serving the interests of the community and moving this town forward. Instead, we are always taking one step forward and 2 steps back. I want this town to take 1 step forward and keep on going. Downtown Riverhead is showing signs of life, yet we are neglecting to address the zoning for apartment build-out and parking. This goes against the advice of our master plan, of a BOA study that we did, which cost us over $500,000. We need a proactive town board that addresses issues before they become problems, instead of just giving them lip service. Concentration of our businesses on Route 58, using transfers of development rights, was a step forward in this town, but allowing the overdevelopment of 58 that has taxed our infrastructure, our police, our fire department, and our patients is taking 2 steps back. We need to review the master plan. This should have been done and was required to be done, but this board has failed to do that and will get it done. This board has failed us. We are the highest taxed, the lowest bond rated, the most indebted town on the East End. The board has been bickering and blaming each other for not getting the job done. No one takes responsibility for improving downtown, marketing at Cal, or even getting potholes filled. And this has to change. You need to ask yourself if you will be better off in 4 years if we re-elect the sitting supervisor or elect a supervisor who blames everyone but herself for not getting things done. And 3, possibly 4 retired police officers to have sit on the board. It hasn't helped us so far. That's why it's time for a fresh start. As your councilwoman, I would be committed to better tax management with accountability. I am willing to protect, to fight, and to maintain the character of our communities.
Time.
Thank you very much.
Okay. No. Deal.
I believe the people of Riverhead have a real clear choice this November. You can go with business as usual, or you can go with fresh ideas. Business as usual has not really worked out well. Laura, Tony, and I will work together and right this ship with commitment and intelligence. The sad truth is that we wouldn't even need to be discussing some of the issues covered tonight if the current board had simply done our job. And let me point out that none of these issues are Democratic or Republican. They are all Riverhead issues. We're not asking you to choose between parties, but to choose the people who are right for the job and who will get things done. After 6 long years, I think we should all be tired of stupid deals. Deals that benefit the few and not the many. How could we allow the IDA to give $1.5 million in tax breaks for a new Marriott hotel on Route 58? That wasn't a necessity. Those dollars belong to you. How can we continue to elect town leaders who are asleep at the wheel and allow things like the clear cutting and illegal sand mining at the Costco site? Well over a month ago, our team released our platform. Since that time, there has been virtual silence from our opposition. No comments, no ideas, not even criticisms. Jim has declared that he's not been a legislative type of councilman. I'm not sure Jim understands the requirements of this job. And like Jim, Tim has talked about how many people he knows in the community. I have nothing but respect for Jim and Tim's service to our town as policemen. But knowing the most people in town should not be your top qualification to be on the town board. At the end of a recent work session, Laura and I ran into Tim, who was joking with Bob Peaker about how that was 2 hours of their lives they'll never get back. Do they think town government will be more exciting and entertaining when they're sitting behind the podium rather than in the audience? Legislation can be boring. Public service is tough. Local government is demanding. This town needs serious people who have the energy and commitment to making Riverhead the best it can be. You deserve a board that is engaged, that respects our town's history, that respects all of our taxpayers, that respects our environment, and respects our quality of life. I promise I will work for you and with you to turn this town around. I hope I can count on your vote November 3rd. Thank you.
In closing, I wish to thank the Wading River and Calverton civic associations for setting up this debate. It's very important to meet with the civic associations as they are the eyes and ears of the community. I hope that everybody here tonight was given clear information as to who the best candidates are for Riverhead Town Board. The town of Riverhead runs through my veins. Born here, raised here, worked here for my entire life. Working as a police officer for this town for over 32 years has exposed me to Riverhead's problems as much as it has to its beauty. I have made it my life solving problems in this community, whether as a police officer, crime prevention officer, juvenile officer, or detective. My work on the local Riverhead School Board has given me the experience of working with multi-million-dollar budgets, as well as keeping school taxes affordable without loss to our children. My Democratic opponents cannot say the same. How many of you heard the name Neil Krupnick or Laura Jen Smith before this election? As I stated, Riverhead runs through my veins. New York City runs through the veins of Mr. Krupnick. The last thing we need on Riverhead Town Board is someone with big city mentality. We need to preserve what makes our community the gem of Eastern Long Island. The town of Southold runs through the veins of Laura Jen Smith. She claims to have done some community work in her neighborhood. Well, her neighborhood is so close to the Southold border that her children actually attend Mattituck School District, where she's a member of the Mattituck School Board. I assure you the problems faced by the people of Riverhead are very different than those affecting people in Southold. We need true hometown leaders who know what it means to be an integral part of the Riverhead community and to make this town succeed. If I have the privilege of earning your vote in this upcoming election, I will be able to continue my lifelong dedication to public service. My record clearly speaks for itself, and I thank you for coming out tonight and remembering that Riverhead deserves better. Thank you.
Jim?
Thank you. I too want to thank the do want to thank the Calverton and Wading River for holding this forum tonight. You know, I keep hearing Jim says he's not a legislator. I know I'm a legislator, and I have legislated laws. But I think a councilman is much more than that. I think a councilman has to be you. And I take great pride in that. I have integrity, I'm honest, I'm always a straight shooter. Anybody that calls me, in fact, if you call my office, it gives you my cell phone number. You can call me direct, anytime, day and night. And I will give you God's honest, direct answer to your question of how I feel about something. And I'll work with you. I've worked with private, I've worked with civics, I've worked with 501c3s, I've worked with a lot of community members in this community to make this community better. And it's for you. I do it for you. I represent the town of Riverhead. So being just a legislator to sit there and create more laws, more oversight, I'm not into that. I'm not into that. We do it. We absolutely do it because things need to be corrected. You know, we need to make sure that we're staying true to ourselves and keeping the community that we love and we share. That I will do forever. I've been here 5 generations. My daughter's here. I want her to stay here. We've never been closer than we are with EPCAL. You keep hearing EPCAL, the 20-year plan, the 20-year plan. I agree with you because I could have wrote that 7, 8 years ago, and I did write that 8 years ago about EPCAL. But we've never been closer because this town finally invested back into that property to create a subdivision so you have something to sell. It's not a ski mountain, somebody hoping to do our work for us and do the subdivision for us. We're doing it ourselves. We're making the lots available for people to buy, whether it's 5 acres, 20 acres, or 500 acres. We created that. And that wasn't just by happenstance, it was by going to Albany, it was by creating legislation. It was a lot of hard work. And the top of their ticket was part of that. So he knows. So EPCAL is definitely on the right path to see some real success. So I don't get it. It's the same old, same old, same old. I don't know these people. I have respect for them because they're putting their name out there to stand before the public and represent you. That's an honorable thing. I can't deny them. That's an honorable thing. So I won't knock them for that. But the bottom line is all the things I've been involved in my life with many, many different things, whether it's fire department or police department, I don't know who they are.
Applause.
Will the candidates for supervisor please come up?